Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show on USA Global TV and Radio. This is You as a Whole, Body, Mind, and Soul. I'm going solo this week, so we're going to hopefully have some people chat in and ask some questions and get involved. What we're going to talk about today is children and sports. And I'm 49. I'll be 50 in December. And I see such a difference in the way sports is today. For me, when I was growing up, a lot of the sports that we played was on the streets. I grew up in South Philadelphia, where we played in the middle of the street, tiny streets, almost the size of an alley. I mean, they were really, really small. And some people would say, "Wow, I can't believe you guys were able to even run around in that place." And then, we would play in a schoolyard, and then there were some hockey rinks, and we played everything. We played handball, we played baseball, we played hockey. That was the main thing that we played. Never had any coaching, really. Never had any kind of training. It was just kind of figuring it out on your own. And I remember my parents would say the earliest you could go out at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday. And I remember I had my skates on. I was that kid. I had my skates on at 7:15, and I had my gloves on and my stick ready, and I had the net ready. And I remember I would skate over to the rink, and I would drop the net down and shoot pucks, even if there were no kids out yet. I was one of those kids that, just tried to. I love the play. I just wanted to play, and I played a lot of sports. I wasn't really. I started with baseball, but I wasn't really a very good baseball player. But I became a decent hockey player over time, and played soccer and played basketball, played flag football. I didn't play tackle football, but I played flag football, organized sports. So we did Little League and, again, soccer, and there were leagues that were set up in the neighborhood. But I would say probably the majority of the sports that we played was on the street together. And we had really good people that helped us. I look back at the coaches and think they were just wonderful people. They were all men at the time. At the time, you're talking the 80s. So it was mostly men. It was all men. And they were men who, a majority of them, really cared about kids and really wanted kids to have fun. And that's what it was about. And most of them, not their fault, but especially with a sport like hockey that really wasn't it was getting popular at the time, but they really didn't have any idea of how the game is played. It was more of a, put the kids out there and tell them that just shoot the puck, and there weren't a lot of plays, and you just kind of ran around and did your thing, and that's the way it was. And I remember at 10 years old playing my first year hockey, floor hockey, and we won the championship in overtime. I'll never forget the kid's name. His name was Franco Barbalinardo. Who knows if he's watching on Facebook, but I'll never forget Franco. He had 104 fever, I think, that day. He was in eighth grade. That's how the league was, from fifth grade to eighth grade. And actually, I was in fourth. I got in there a little early. And so I was just 10. and Franco was just about he was 14. And I remember didn't know if we were going to get this great hockey player, for the neighborhood, and he showed up and he scored 4 goals that night and scored the championship winning goal in overtime. And I'll never forget being at the bottom of the pile and people on top of me, and we're all celebrating. And I remember a really neat moment that probably would never happen today, and that's a shame. One of the coaches, I was animatedly talking about the game and how great it was, and we were actually the underdogs. The two teams that were playing, we were supposed to get killed, and somehow we pulled it out. But I was explaining to him how great it was, and I remember he kissed me on the head, and I think he was just moved so much by the joy of a 10-year-old kid being that excited about that moment. It was a real thrill for him, and I never forgot that. I always remembered that, and that was neat. So sports back then was much simpler. By the time I got to high school, I played ice hockey in high school. But again, I was really behind the eight ball because I didn't have there wasn't ice in South Philadelphia. So I roller skated. I played on rollerblades, but I really didn't start ice skating playing hockey until I was 14 years old and already in high school. So it took me about 2 years to really get halfway decent. I never became a great hockey player, but I was one of those kids that put in the time. I did the off ice work. I worked out constantly. I did on ice work. I was the kid who would hustle. I was the first kid on the ice, the last kid off the ice. I wanted as much ice time as possible. I wasn't big, but I threw my body around constantly and checked and was very, very physical and did all those things. And it was a joy to play. And it's funny. I look back now and I remember the last game that I played, and at the time it was a championship game, and I was playing with my brother, which was pretty cool. I was 18, and it was the last competitive game that I'll ever play in my life. I'll never have another competitive game in my life. And I didn't think about that at the time. All I was thinking about was, let's win this thing, so let's win this championship. And unfortunately, it's kind of strange. We were down by two, and in the final 12 seconds, we scored twice to tie it. But unfortunately, the referee said that the last goal was scored after the clock ran out. So we got robbed. They took it away, and that's the last time I ever will be on the ice as a competitive hockey player. Now I play, and it's once you're out of high school and college, it really is not the same. And what I wouldn't do to go back to play one more time, just to go out and play a meaningful game, a physical game where we go out and there's full body checking, and you go out and play as hard as you want, and you can do whatever you need to do, and play tough, hard nosed hockey. And it's it's hard to look back and not feel nostalgic. And we have it on tape. And one of the coolest things was when it looked like we had tied the game. We have my on the video, my father and my grandfather screaming. I mean, at the top of their lungs, they were so excited. So I always say that even though we lost the championship, my brother and I actually won, because we have a video of our father and our grandfather going out of their minds celebrating for us. They couldn't believe that we tied the game. And then the video cuts off. You don't see the goal that was disallowed. So it's pretty neat to have that. And so in some ways we lost, but in a lot of ways, the more important ways, we won. And that's the most important thing. And practice was like once a week, and you play maybe 2 games a week, and that was it. You played injured. I remember I had a sprained ankle for my whole senior year, and played on it, and it would never heal, because if you play on it all season, it's never going to go away. So I played on it all season, but there were only 1 or 2 practices a week, and then there were 1 or 2 games a week, and that was it. And most of us played different sports, like I said, basketball or soccer or whatever anybody wanted to play. But man, is it different today. It is so different today with what kids have to do if they want to be competitive. They can't just go out and wing it like I did. They can't, and my generation did. There is no way that that could be done today. There's got to be total dedication, and I don't know. I really don't know. And maybe somebody could chime in if you'd like, if this is a good direction that we're going, or is it a bad direction that we're going, or is it just different? I don't know. I don't know. I it's at this point, if a kid wants to be a boy or a girl, doesn't matter. I have two daughters. My youngest daughter is a softball player, and last last year she practiced, I don't know how many days a week, and there were tournaments every weekend, multiple games, sometimes 4 games in one day, and then Sunday 4 more games. And then there were some out of town trips. We never did that as kids. We never left Philadelphia. We never went, or maybe we went to, the suburbs, but we didn't travel, hundreds of miles or hours to go play, and that's how it is today. And the problem is that the kid who just wants to play recreationally just doesn't have a chance to do it, because you're never going to be able to survive. You just can't. You're going to have to play as much as the other kids play, and you're going to have to practice as much as they practice. And I think in some ways, if you're a kid like me, if I had that kind of training, I don't know where I would have been. I don't know if I would have been, odds are probably not an NHL player, because I think those are such rare talents that I don't think I had that ability to be an NHL player. But if I had been trained from 5 or 6 years old, and practiced 5 days a week or 4 days a week, and played 3 or 4 days a week, who knows? I might have gotten into college hockey. I might have gotten into minor league hockey, and been able to play. I had some raw ability, and certainly the determination to do it. And I see kids. I have a niece who ice skates tremendously. She must ice skate. Who knows how many hours? I know Saturdays are something like 6 hours or 4 hours, something like that. And there's on ice training, there's off ice training. She skates 6 days a week. She travels to um, Nevada from California. She lives out in California, and she's a very good skater. She's up there in for her age group, especially. And even with that, though, it's so hard. A lot of people, and my brother and sister-in-law really do a good job of keeping their head on their shoulders. They know that, to get to the Olympics or to the top is hard, even if you're great, because there are other great participants as well. So if you're great, and she is great in California, she's got to go up against the great kids in Minnesota. She's got to go against the great kids in Boston. She's got to go against the great kids even in the warm weather areas like Florida now. Hockey players, same thing. If you could be the best player in your league, you could be the best player in your region, you could be the best player, in part of the country, and still not be good enough to make the Olympics, and just fall short. And that's where, the thing about my niece is she loves it, and that's why for her it works. But then you get the flip side. You get the parents who are the ones who want the kids to be the Olympian, or want the kid to be a professional hockey player or a professional baseball player, and they want them to practice, and they want them to do drills constantly, and to the point where the kid either burns out and doesn't want to play the sport anymore, or just decides that, it's they're just not going to, they're going to stay at the level that they are, and if they don't play much, if they ride the bench, that's okay. And that's a shame. You also have to pick what sport you want today, whereas I got a choice. I got to play multiple sports today. Kids have to concentrate on a sport. If a kid is a field hockey player, she's got to be a field hockey player. She can't be a swimmer. She can't be a softball player. She can't be a soccer player. It's very difficult because these coaches want these kids dedicated to one sport and one sport alone, and it's that sport. So the problem with that is that you become a better athlete by playing different sports. If there's one thing that I would teach to any kids or tell to any kids or parents about being an athlete is I think it's important to be an athlete in many different sports because you develop different skills that are transferable. You might say, well, how could being, a football player make you a better hockey player? Well, you can learn how to absorb a hit playing football. You're going to get hit. So you learn how to take a hit without getting hurt, being able to withstand it. You learn, you get more agile uh, playing football. Or if you play basketball, your cardio is you're up and down the court constantly. So if you're a hockey player and a basketball player, the basketball is your hand-eye coordination is getting better, just like any other thing, and your cardio is getting better. So, and you work different muscles with different sports. That's the other thing. What about overuse? One of the things that's kind of strange. Well, it's not strange. I guess it's the body that the motion of throwing a baseball, a pitcher in baseball, they can only pitch kids a certain amount of pitches. They can only pitch maybe, I think I don't know the number exactly off the top of my head, but it might be about 60 pitches, and then they have to take 3 days off or something, whatever the rule is. But there's a rule. There's a pitch count. Once they hit that pitch count, they're done. They can't pitch anymore for a couple of days because the overhand throwing puts a lot of torque on the elbow, puts a lot of torque on the shoulder. Whereas in softball, because it's an underhand release, the kids can pitch as much as they want. If they want to throw 3,000 pitches, they can. They can pitch all day long. If there's 4 games, they can pitch all 4 games. There's no reason to take them out unless are just tired. But the wear and tear on the arm is different. So it's the mechanics too that make a difference. Um, I think we've lost the days of kids getting. I know my father's generation up to probably the 90s. So just past when I was a kid in the 90s, I was in my teens, turning into my 20s. And I think we were close to the last generation of kids that just got together to play and choose up sides and just have fun. And it wasn't so serious. It was just kids having a great time. And I did that into my 20s. I mean, we and I still do it today. I play hockey sometimes. I only get on the ice maybe 4 or 5 times a year, which I wish it was more, but with work and things like that, it's impossible to do. But the days of kids just going outside and being kids is seems to be long gone. And I think it's a shame. I think that there was a nostalgia to that it was a neat thing for kids to be able to bond like that. You made so many good friends, and the coaching that I see today, it depends. Obviously, there are very, very good coaches that are very knowledgeable and are good with kids. And then you have coaches that are very knowledgeable but have no idea what they're doing with children. And their idea of wanting to build champions, of wanting to make kids or their team that they want the trophy. I don't know. Yeah, you strive for excellence, of course, and you want to win. There's no doubt about it. No coach wants to lose. And I coached hockey for a little while, but I never put pressure on the kids. I always taught them, mechanics and how to play, and uh, I wasn't rough on them, and just say, hey guys, just have a good time, and this is what you need to do, and just think, use your brain, because sports are not just your body, it's your brain too. But I'm seeing coaches now. Fortunately, my oldest daughter's a swimmer, and she's had great coaches her whole life. She really has been lucky, and she's a really good swimmer, and she enjoys that. That's the only sport she wants to do. She just wants to be a swimmer. And my youngest daughter, she's played a lot of things. She played, as I said, softball. She ran cross country today. She actually had a cross country race, and out of 50 girls from seventh and eighth grade, she came in fourth, and she hasn't been lower than fifth the entire year, which is pretty cool. And I remember her first year when she was in sixth grade, she came in first place every race except for one. So she had nine first place finishes out of 10 races, which was pretty neat. And she's just a gifted athlete. She has talent. But unfortunately, she ran into bad coaching. She ran into coaches that did not have their head screwed on straight. And I think parents have to be the biggest advocate for their child. And my wife and I were, and we let our displeasure be known. I think a lot of parents have, we call it parent goggles, where they look at their kid and they think their kid is the greatest athlete that ever walked the planet. And we never did that. We never did that. And we never told our kids that. We never said to them, hey, you're the best, you're this or you're that. We tell it like it is. My daughter, Rebecca, at 13, was seventh, eighth, ninth best on the team, somewhere around there, maybe sixth best, six through nine, somewhere in that neighborhood. I mean, generally, not the best, not the worst, generally in the middle. And unfortunately, she got cut from the team by coaches who use politics and didn't look at the full picture, and took that away from her. And there was not much she could do about it. But I let them know that it's a cowardly thing to do, to cut a kid. That and we're still stuck in that coach's kid. It always gets to play, right? I mean, I remember being a kid, and the coach's kid always got to play, shortstop or second base, or got to play, got to pitch or whatever. And even if the kid was not very good at all, it was the coach's kid. So the coach's kid got to do everything. And that's still going on today, which is really, I mean, I get it that parents have trouble getting over their own feelings of wanting their kid to succeed. But at the same time, I think you have to be honest with yourself. And if I was a coach, I would put the best player at their position, to so the team can do well. So you straddle a line. You're trying to teach these kids how to be good athletes. You're trying to teach these kids how to be good teammates, how to back each other up. You're trying to teach these kids how to win, how to be determined. I think that does spill over into the work world. I think that kids that are successful in sports have a tendency to be successful in other things like music, or business, because sooner or later you got to work as a team. Sooner or later you have to develop skills that and determination and make you better at something that it may not come naturally to you. So if you're not a natural guitar player, you're not a natural pianist, but you know what dedication is because you learned it on the soccer field, or you learned it on the ice rink, or you learned it on the baseball field. That makes a difference. That makes that kid will put that same determination, if they want to, into that instrument. So and teamwork. I teach classes on teamwork and how important it is that we're not an island. I mean, no matter what. The one of the worst and most ridiculous sayings that I hear, and I hear people say this all the time, is I'm a self-made man or a self-made woman. No, you're not. Nobody's a self-made anything. There are a lot of people that have gone into your success. I run my own business. It's just me, and I run a charity. But I have people who work with me, who help me. I have clients that I depend on for the charity, especially. I have family and friends who help me get the charity going, and we'll have a little piece on that charity at the end of the show tonight. But you got to know how to work as a team, and no individual beats a team. It just doesn't happen. It's not systems always work better than individuals. It really is true. And I've seen it time and time again to know that it's true. It's not, a theory. It really comes down to systems work. When you put systems in place and everybody plays their role, that's when you have a powerful unit. And that's really what it takes. You could take 10 all-stars in a sport and put them all together, and they could be beaten by a team that has a better system. Even if they're not as good individually, the sum of the parts are greater than the total. So um, it's inevitable. It's happened in hockey. I mean, as a hockey fan, I can tell you that the Russians were very good hockey players. In 1980, the USA Olympic team was able to beat them, and there's no way that that team should have been able to win. But the coach Herb Brooks put a team together and had them play a system and had learned how to shut down that incredibly potent Russian offense and slowed it down. And he did it with a system. And I think that that's what you got to teach kids today, is that working as a unit makes a huge difference. The other thing that's concerning to me, um, and it's a double-edged sword. I don't want this to come across as a criticism necessarily. I remember when they came out with EA Sports. EA Sports is electronic sports. It's video games, and they came out with leagues. And on the one hand, I could see the value of it. When I first learned about it, I thought this is ridiculous. That you're going to have a sport with video games, that these kids are literally sitting still and on a chair and playing video games. And I thought to myself, you got to get these kids out and moving around. I mean, the body's not meant to be in a chair all day long and just not moving. So is this really a sport? Um, but then some people told me that, some of their kids weren't really good athletes and were afraid to play sports, traditional sports, and that playing video sports was a way for them to connect with other kids. So I do see the value in that too. But uh, I think it's a different world today. I think that we have a lot more kids that are we have I don't think I'm overstating this when I say we have an obesity problem in the United States. I was obese at one point. And I never thought I would be. I was a string bean when I was growing up, and then all of a sudden, I was 48 years old a year ago, and it was gigantic. And then I, worked hard to get rid of that. But I think that starts a lot from youth. I think kids are not as active as they were. I don't think I would have been as thin as a kid if I wasn't always playing outside, running constantly, playing everything, in the schoolyard. It was nonstop. Like I said, 7:30 on a Saturday morning. And the only reason why I couldn't go out earlier than that was because my parents didn't want us to bother the neighbors. It was just in case they were sleeping. So, it was just courtesy for the neighbors. But I would have gone out before dawn. It would have lasted forever. And we didn't come in. We didn't go to lunch. We didn't eat. We played. There was no lunch break. We would go out there and we'd skate and we'd shoot pucks and play hockey game after hockey game after hockey game, and just have a great time. And nobody took a break. We probably didn't know enough about hydration back then, so we were probably pretty dehydrated as we were playing longer and longer and sweating and not going home to get a drink. Everybody's like, no, we can't, got to stay. We can't let the game die. Or even if it was just football in the street, just running and playing football, and run to the car and button hook, run 5 cars down and then slant. And, we would call plays and throw the ball. And when it would snow, that was even more fun because then we could tackle each other. So we were able to play tackle football in the snow, and we enjoyed that because obviously you don't want to play tackle football without equipment on cement. That's not really a safe option. So when it would snow, it was pretty cool because we could play tackle football, and that was a treat for us. And I've been a snow lover my whole life. I mean, that's probably part of the reason why is I remember those fun days out in the snow and playing sports. Um, Wayne Gretzky's one of my heroes, even though he wasn't a Flyer. I'm a was a huge Flyers fan. But Wayne Gretzky, uh, a lot of times gets approached by parents, and parents will say to Wayne Gretzky, "Here's my son. And he wants to make the NHL. Tell him how much he should be practicing." And Wayne Gretzky says, "I'm not telling the kid that. I'm telling the kid, if you love it and it's fun for you, do it. If you don't love it and it's not fun for you, don't do it. If it's work, don't do it." For him, he would practice 6 hours a day. He would go out in the morning before school and skate. He lived in Brantford, Ontario, so it was obviously very cold. He had a rink in his backyard, so he would skate in the morning before school. He would come home for lunch and he would skate. He would go after school. He would put on his skates and go. He'd skate outside. He literally practiced 6 hours a day. But to him, he says it wasn't work. It wasn't practice. It was fun. It was what he enjoyed doing. It took him into his own little world where he could become eventually someone that, you got to be pretty good if they're going to nickname you the Great One. I mean, does it get better than that? That's your name, the Great One. And if you say the Great One, most people who are sports fans will know exactly who you're talking about. And he says, look, if your kid's not interested in doing that, if it's work and if it's a chore, then it's not worth it. I think you got to look at the odds too. That's the other thing that do some people make it? Yes, yes, there are people who make it. How many more don't? It's very, very, very difficult to become a professional athlete, and I think parents today lose sight of that, especially if their kid's the best player on the team. And they think, wow, my kid's special. Well, your kid might be the best player on this team, but are they the best player in the state? Are they the best player in the region? Are they the best player, in on the East Coast? And then you look at other countries too. You're not just competing against uh, players in the United States, but if it's a professional league, you're competing against people from all over the world. You're talking about millions of athletes. So you have to be the top 0.001% to have a sniff at it. What are the odds, right? I mean, if you look at the odds, most kids are going to be disappointed. So on the one hand, you don't want to discourage them and say, hey, listen, don't, you don't want to discourage them from practicing and tell them, don't practice so much, don't do that. But if they enjoy it, let them do it. But to drive them and drive them and drive them in the hopes that they're going to be one of the 0.001% is really it can backfire pretty badly. Um, because again, it can burn the kid out. Kid misses out on being a kid. I didn't miss out on being a kid. I got to be a kid. I got to play and just enjoy playing. I didn't. There wasn't tremendous pressure, and now it is, and it's a lot of pressure. And if you're not cutting it and you're 9 years old, you're off the team. And um, it's just I think some things have to change. I think some things have to change. Um, I think we're not doing these kids a service all the time. We're very good technically now, coaches. Coaches can go on YouTube and learn new things. We have amazing technology. The equipment for sports is so much better today than it was before. The skates in hockey are so much lighter and they glide so much better. And the sticks are they're like uh, uh, boomerangs. I mean, the puck flies off those sticks like never could you do that with wood or aluminum. When I was playing, it was wood and aluminum. You couldn't shoot like that back then with what they do with the sticks today. In fact, you don't even shoot the same way. But the swimming, even you're talking about amazing. Oh, I think we have a question coming in. Let's see if we can bring that question up. What do you think about every child receiving a trophy? Here's my thought on it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with every child receiving a trophy. I'm not okay with every child receiving the same trophy. If the champions won the championship, then they deserve the bigger trophy. They deserve the really big trophy. If you want to give participation awards out, whether it's a ribbon or a small trophy, just something small to make the kids feel good, I think that's okay. I don't think we're damaging kids by doing that. But when you can't put the word champions on the other trophy, or if you can't give the other team the bigger trophy and show that they were the ones that won the championship, I think that's where we're doing them a disservice because, look, you're not always going to win in life. I know that full well. There's a lot of life where there's loss, and if you don't learn that growing up, you're going to learn it the hard way as an adult. So that's a great question. Um, I don't think we're softening kids by giving I will tell you right now, I have some participation trophies that I still have from a kid, and that was the '80s. And I have some ribbons from when I was a kid. It's a second place, but the champions got the bigger trophy. They got to stand up on the podium and get recognized and announced, and that's the way it should be. The year we won, I was able to be part of that. That was great. It's a memory I'll never forget. This whole idea of not keeping score, I think is ridiculous. I think that you have to keep score. It's okay to have a winner. It's okay. And it's okay to lose. It's not a disaster. We're I it's so hard because you don't want to discourage kids. You don't want them to make them feel bad. I get it. I get it. As a parent, I get it. As a former kid, I get it. And I know how much it hurt. I remember the year after we won a championship, watching a team beat us, and we were supposed to win, and we lost. And watching them pile on top of each other and celebrate, I remember crying my eyes out because I was devastated that we didn't get a chance to do it again because it was so fun. But you know what? It's part of life. I mean, that's just the way it is. Another question coming in. Let's see what that question is. How can we motivate children to push them without necessarily having to be the best? Tell them to be the best they can. Just what can you do to be the best you can? And that's all that matters. Just get better than you were yesterday. And if you don't have a great day, tomorrow will be better. We don't have, they're not all going to be the best. You just can't be. I do not have the talent and never did have the talent to be the best hockey player in the world. Only one person got to be that, Wayne Gretzky. Right now it might be in baseball. It's who's the guy that plays for the Dodgers? He's got 50 some home runs and 50 steals. Otani. How many of them are there? One. That's it. And he pitches on top of it. So we're watching a modern day Babe Ruth. So there should be no pressure to tell the kid you got to be the best. I tell my kids, be the best you can be. And if that is the best, great. If you get the first place trophy, wonderful. I'll be excited about it, enjoy it, celebrate it. And if you wind up in fifth place, but you did the best you could, then you did the best you could. That's all that you can do. There's no other choice. And every day is not the same. I mean, even as an adult, I'm, again, 49 years old. I go in the gym, and some days I can lift weights. 300 pounds feels like it's 150 pounds, and I could throw it around like it's nothing. And then other days, 300 pounds feels like it's 3 million pounds, and I could barely move it. Now, why does that happen? Well, I mean, fatigue, uh, illness, mental blocks. There's so many things that go into it that it does make a difference. So yeah, I think that's a great question. Should we motivate them to be the best? No, be the best that they can be. That should be the motivation. Then we have another question coming in too. Let's see what this next one is. When, if ever, is the time to share with your child. They may be meant to do something else other than that sport. That is a really, really good question. My parents knew. It was 1984, November 14th, 1984. November 15th, 1984. Bobby Clark night. Bobby Clark was one of the greatest flyers to ever play the game, and he got an 11-minute standing ovation when he came out on the ice. And I remember I was a 9-year-old kid watching that, and had tears in my eyes and goosebumps, and I fell in love with hockey. I was obsessed with hockey after that. I mean, to see that, and then they had a video montage of his career, and it was just amazing. And I said to my parents, I'm going to be a professional hockey player. Well, they knew then, when I was a 9-year-old kid, that I wasn't going to be a professional hockey player, but they didn't burst my bubble. But gradually, as I got older, they had to start to kind of put the hint in my head that, listen, it's not that easy. It's going to be hard. And around 12 or 13, they started to say, you're going to start getting into tougher competition. It's not going to be as easy, and you might not make it. You might not be NHL material. And they were right. I wasn't NHL material. I was not even varsity material in my first year of hockey. And I barely made the varsity team in my second year, my sophomore year of high school. Now, by junior year, I was better, but certainly not on the level of a superstar. So age, I would say let kids be kids and dream early on. But if it's obvious that they're not going to be a superstar and they're not going to be that special player, and you'll know it, they'll be special, they'll be above and beyond what all the other kids can do. You'll see it. You can look at a kid and tell that this kid's special, but even that kid has to be prepared for the possibility of not making it. Sometimes attitude is a big thing too. I mean, you get kids sometimes that are very cocky, that are very difficult to uh, coach. And I've seen players with tremendous talent that should be stars in the NHL that aren't even in the NHL anymore, or in Major League Baseball, or whatever, because they were uncoachable. They didn't have the right attitude. Attitude matters too, just like talent does. Another question just came in. I'd like to see that one, please. Some parents get crazy on the sidelines. Is that okay? It's okay to celebrate. It's okay to jump up and down. It's okay to be excited. It's not okay to scream and berate kids. So I don't know what side of crazy. I mean, I see some parents going crazy in a positive way, where they're cheering loudly and they're jumping up and down and they're excited for the kids. And I think that's okay. I think that's all right. But I'll give you a story. When my youngest daughter, Rebecca, was playing T-ball, the coach decided, why don't we give him a little chance to try to hit pitching? So he would throw underhand and pitch the ball underhanded to try to get them used to swinging a bat at a ball that was being thrown at them instead of on the tee. And I was there along with my family, and there was this gentleman. He was an older guy. He was grandfather, actually. So he was probably in his late 60s, early 70s, older than I am. I was in my 40s at the time, and still, again, almost 50, early 40s at the time. And he was heckling the kids. He was screaming, strike one, strike two, strike three. And this went on for a while. I mean, we did a show a few weeks ago about anger, and this was one of the times where I didn't really control my anger. And I finally stood up and I said, shut your mouth. Essentially, is what I told him. I said, keep your mouth shut. These are kids. You're heckling 5-year-old kids. Keep your mouth shut. And unfortunately, his son-in-law, for whatever reason, decided that was more than he could handle. And he ran over and he ran towards me like he was going to attack me. And he said he was going to use the F word and beat me up. And the only thing I kept saying to him was, just please, they're 5-year-old kids, stop saying that word. Just don't say that. I couldn't have cared less that he was coming at me. I don't get intimidated easy. but he was dropping F-bombs, and all I could think about was, oh my God, you're doing this in front of these kids, you're dropping F-bombs. And no, that kind of behavior is awful. And um, I I don't know what I would have done if he followed through and attacked me. I did warn him. I said, "Don't do it." I said, I will defend myself if I have to, but do you want to fight in front of 5-year-old kids? I don't. I mean, I don't want to hurt somebody or get hurt in front of 5-year-old kids. So I told him, I said, you got to remember there are kids here. You can't curse the way you want to and get nuts like that. But growing up in South Philly, it was kind of like a different place. We had some parents that were crazy. I mean, there was especially some of the dads. They were hardworking blue collar guys that, and I'm not knocking that, but they believed that everything had to be answered with violence. So if a referee made a bad call, I remember we were playing a game. I was a kid, and the referee made a bad call in a football game, and we wound up losing the game, even though we were the better team. And one of our players, the father, said to the referee, you got to go home tonight. And he said, I'll be waiting for you, at the door. And he's going to fist fight the referee. It's like, do you really, is that what you want to teach kids, that you're going to beat up the referee for a call that didn't go your way? So, going crazy and wild and cheering, that's fine. Can it be annoying if you're sitting next to somebody who's very, very loud? Sure. Yeah, it could be annoying. But they're doing it for positive reasons. When you're threatening people, when you're heckling 5-year-olds, and when you're threatening to beat people up because they made a bad call, and these people, these umpires and referees are giving up their time, and they're not getting paid a lot of money. They're getting paid like $50 a game. So it's not like these guys and ladies are making hundreds of dollars to come out and referee these games or umpire these games. They're getting paid very little, and it's just for them fun. It's a labor of love. So um, no, it's not okay to get crazy if it's in a violent, angry, non-constructive way. But I do see some parents get very, very excited for their kid, especially if a kid hits a home run over the fence. The parents go crazy, and I think that's great. I mean, I would. I mean, I remember Rebecca, my 13-year-old, hit a tournament-winning grand slam, and I was jumping up and down. I was excited. You hear me on the video screaming, just like my dad and my grandfather screamed when we scored that goal all those years ago. I think that's fun. Another question. Let's see what the next question is. Not all kids want to play sports, but their parents want them to. How can these kids get the attention they need to pursue other options like creative arts? That's a really tough question. I mean, how do you parents have the final say? I mean, and I think that's how it has to be. I think it's unfortunate. I think those parents are short-sighted. If the kid it doesn't want to be an athlete, I think the parent really needs to own up to that and just say, look, that's not. What do you want to be? Do you want to be an actor? Do you want to play an instrument? Do you want to sing? Do you want whatever it is? Do you want to be an artist? All those things are fine. Um, the part of it is difficult to answer is how do you get these kids to get the attention they need? I think somebody outside, obviously outside the home, is going to have to recognize that. Hopefully, a teacher or another kid will introduce them to something that resonates with them. These types of parents, to me, are doing a very big disservice to their kid. I think they're hurting their kid by making them an athlete, especially if they're scared. Why put a kid through it if they're afraid, if they're not willing to play, if they don't want to be a part of it? It's okay. It's okay. At the same time, if a kid decides that they're going to play a sport and halfway through the season they decide, you know what, I don't want to play, that's a different story. That's a different story because now you made a commitment. You have teammates that are relying on you, and you got to teach the kid to follow through and finish the season. You know, unless there's extenuating circumstances, they have an injury or some traumatic thing happen. But if to force a kid to do anything is, to me, not constructive. Yeah, my kids, as they get older, I ask them what they want to do with their life. I don't tell them what to do with their life. I don't tell them to run a charity. I don't tell them to get into the training business. I don't tell them to get into TV or radio. I don't tell them to teach. I don't tell them to be a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer or anything. They have to decide that. If they want to, they ultimately have to make that decision. And I think that's part of being a good parent. I think it's allowing your kid to be an individual and giving them the space to do it. Would I be scared if my daughters came to me and said they wanted to be an astronaut? Yeah, I'd be scared. Of course. Would I stop them? No, I wouldn't stop them. I have my heart in my throat, but at some point, you have to let the kid express himself the way they want to. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of therapy, a lot of mental anguish. Another question came in, please. What about kids being on a travel team and it can impact their grades and social life? Oh, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. Gigantic. And it extends into college. If you play Division III in college, you can do whatever you want. You could go out, you could party, you could hit the books and all the things that you should do and live the college life. I wasn't an athlete in college. I played on the roller hockey team. We started a roller hockey team, but it wasn't sanctioned or anything. So we didn't have practices, we didn't have curfews. But if you want to be a Division I player, and you want to play for, like Oklahoma State as a softball player, guess what? You're not going to have a regular college life. You're not going to be able to eat the foods you want because you have to stay in shape. You have to eat right. And nobody can outwork a diet. It's impossible. We'll have shows on that. You cannot outwork a diet. Think about this. If you get half a donut, that's about 350 calories. You now have to run a mile to kill the 350, just to stop those 350 calories. That's half a donut. You eat the whole donut, now you got to run 2 miles. You eat 2 donuts, now you got to run 4 miles. So can you outwork your diet? No. So those kids, um, uh, they college kids won't have a regular life. Now, younger kids, the problem is homework. I mean, if you're practicing till 9 o'clock at night, they're doing homework from 9:30 to 11 o'clock. They're not getting the sleep they need. I think that's a problem. Social life, something that was part of that question. How about kids being kids? How about kids going to the movies? You know, they need some time for that stuff. Dances, things that we did as a kid or as kids, I think have been lost. I don't understand how things have changed in a lot of ways with social life today with kids. I see, like the prom, up through probably the 2000s and probably the 2000 teens. Uh, People went with a date and you would go to the prom with your date in a limo and maybe a bunch of kids got together and they would go together with their date. And now kids go as just groups of friends. They just my daughter went with like 5 other girls and the boys all went in their own limo as well, and they all showed up and nobody danced with each other. They were kind of separated from each other. So I don't know if that part of that is because we've gotten into too much social media and we've gotten into too many video games and we've gotten into all that stuff that takes away the interpersonal skills that we got a chance to exercise. I was in dances in grade school. We thought that was great. It was a thrill for me to dance with a girl that I liked in grade school. I love that. It was exciting. And unfortunately, kids who are on travel teams that are so demanding, they're missing out on that stuff. And again, how many of the kids on that team are going to wind up parlaying that into a professional career? What happens afterwards? What happens afterwards, especially for girls, unfortunately, in softball? Like, Once they leave college softball, there is no pro softball. So that's it. It's over. So after that 4 years, I mean, you've gone through them. You've hit the pinnacle. You're 22 years old. You have nothing more to go. For men, it's a little different. You might, if you're good enough, have a shot to make it to Major League Baseball or maybe minor league baseball. But even that, I mean, the odds of you making it are slim. So there's a sacrifice. Is it worth it? I mean, we have to decide what that is. Is it worth it or not? I think we have one more question, then we're going to wrap things up. Some kids are doing steroids for many reasons, including pressure from parents to be the best. What do you think about this? I will tell you right now, steroids work. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. They make you bigger, they make you stronger, they make you recover better, they make you a better athlete. They also harden your arteries, they also give you fatty liver, they also resize your heart, especially the left portion of the heart. They carotid arteries can get clogged. They can cause tremendous acne. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Any parent who would knowingly allow their kids to use steroids, that's criminal. It's criminal because the long-term health risks are far, far, far worse than anything that they'll get out of it. Again, the problem is they work. And that's what people say. They say, well, the steroids, they work. They absolutely do. If you take steroids, you're going to be stronger, you're going to be bigger, you're going to be faster, you're going to be everything. You're going to have it way over natural people. But is it worth your life? Look at Lyle Alzado, died of brain cancer at 43 years old. All right, had a great career. He was a great football player. Died at 43. You going to give up your life at 43 for 11 or 12 seasons of football? So if you're a parent out there and you think, that's all right, they can do a little bit of steroids, you just cycle on and cycle off, it'll be okay. It's not okay because once you start, it never stops. It never stops. So that's a great question. Steroids are never a good idea. And they're cheating. Look, I could bench press at my best 385 pounds. If I was on steroids, it would probably be 485 pounds. So was ever there a temptation in my life to say, hey, wouldn't it be neat? But it's cheating. I might as well get somebody to help me lift it, right? I mean, isn't it cheating? You're not doing it yourself. You're doing it artificially. So I'm dead set against steroids. Hey, look, if they didn't have the side effects that they had and they were legal, absolutely, I'd be on steroids. If they were safe and legal and there's no doubt I would do them, but they're not. So that's a great question. Do not tell your kids to do steroids, please. And if they are, get them off it as fast as possible because they are risking long-term health issues. All right, everybody. A lot of great questions tonight. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And we're going to wrap things up now, but I just want to thank you. And just remember, if you would, if you're looking for computer training or soft skills training, you go to my website, which is www.justforyoutc.com. And I can be emailed at justin@justforyou.com. And my charity is Checkmates Charitable Association. We help people with ostomies, with inflammatory bowel disease, and other autoimmune diseases, but mainly inflammatory bowel disease. And we have an NHL celebrity hockey game coming up with some humongous names, Hall of Famers coming to play to help us do that. And I say often, I know a lot of people are not in the United States. This game's being played in the Philadelphia area. But if you are in the Philadelphia area or you can make it, it's August 23rd, 2025. And the rink holds 1,000 people and the restaurant holds 700 people. And I want 1,000 hugs at that rink and I want 700 hugs at that restaurant. So I want those places packed because I know that we can help a lot of people. And one of the organizations that we're helping is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And also Rolf Benershka, the former kicker in the NFL, he kicked with an ostomy bag for 7 years. I'm an ostomy patient myself, and he was the first person that I heard of that I knew life would be okay after there was an ostomy. So that'll do it for tonight. Thank you for joining us for You as a Whole, Body, Mind, and Soul. And if you stay tuned for this little commercial about our hockey game, and then we hope to see you next week. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody, I just want to tell you how thankful I am that you came out tonight and helped us out on a very special evening. Crohn's and colitis are terrible diseases and they affect a lot of people, not only in the Delaware Valley, but all over the world. And hopefully we can find a cure someday.
Lou Nolan here with you at the Checkmates versus the Flyers alumni. We had a great time this afternoon. Game was close, and we're all here for Checkmates Charities, which is the real reason that everybody's here, not only the players, but all the fans that were here. It was a great day, and we're really happy to be here.
It was fun to be out here at Northeast Skate Zone because the Checos were a pretty good team, and so we had a lot of fun with the charity. And it was good because they took it easy on us old guys. So we had a good time. So anytime you can do something for charity, and I know a couple guys on the other team, and just to be on the rink, we all go have fun.
Good times go. I'm either gone in an instant or here to the bitter end. I never know.
I want to thank my family for all that they did to help me get through this, and there's a lot of planning that get done. It has to get done. I want to thank Nick's Roast Beef and Common Avenue for all they've done. Dr. Prieto for saving my life and finding the disease and treating me for so long. And the Flyers organization for all they do to help us raise money every year. So thank you everybody, I appreciate it.